Hey, it's the Time Enough podcast where we talk about episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt. Andrew is here today, as he is maybe every fifth-ish episode or something.
Hey,
This
but
fifth-ish
that doesn't
word.
mean I'm less important than
No,
everybody else.
yeah, like the way I do these kind of like all over the place. So it's weird. I was just looking. It's like, oh, there's like three like far flung guests in a row, and then like a whole bunch of regulars. But I guess that's fine. Yeah. So if you're listening at this point, I guess you're listening and you just kind of plonk along, right? Because we're way in the future. This is like April, man, late April. What are you doing in late April?
Late April.
You don't
I
even
don't know.
know. You don't know because you haven't planned it
That's
yet.
just yeah. So I'll check. Hi, Andrew, in April.
Mm. um, anyway, today's episode is mirror image. What you personally requested this one.
I did.
Yes, this is
Yeah,
when you and this is one that you know that there were people kind of they had in mind, but I was like, he seems to want this one, so
I
I
do,
throw it.
man.
I throw it to you. Um,
Okay.
First off, I'll do the trivia though, which you know, there's not that many people in here, so that at least keeps the trivia like kind of simple for once. Dun,
Yeah.
dun. Okay. John Bram returns for another spot of directing. We've talked about him before. This is the fourth of 12 episodes he does. So, you know, every time he shows up from now on, I can just say, hey, there's that guy again. And there he is. Vera Miles is Millicent Barnes, and she's a straight up film star, of course, who is a regular cast member for both John Ford and Alfred Hitchcock, appearing in films like Ford's The Searchers and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance and Hitchcock's The Wrong Man in Psycho. She did plenty of guest spots on television later in her career, including 3 appearances on The Love Boat. Paul Grinstead was played by Martin Milner. He was a star on the small screen, taking leading roles in the shows Route 66 and Adam 12. So I guess they just needed a pretty face. uh, I mean, a pretty dude face, right? Okay. So pretty boy face. That's what they needed.
Right.
You come some kind of pretty boy. Why, yes, I was the star of both Adam 12 and Route 66. That's what they're going for. So I will splay the prologue abouts on the screen for you.
All right. So what type of Serling are we doing for these? You want me to try and stick to Serling?
You do what you want. That's the whole point of this.
All right. Let me dry my teeth off a little. Is this going to be a video as well?
Yeah, I guess. You podcast with video, don't you?
No.
Oh, okay. That's good. Because I was like, I got lazy. If I don't have actual video, I stop putting it up because I'm too lazy to render the video to the audio. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Millicent Barnes, age 25. Young woman waiting for a bus on a rainy November night. Not a very imaginative type as Miss Barnes. Not given to undue anxiety or fears, or for that matter, even the most temporal flights of fantasy. Like most young career women, she has a generic classification as a, quote, girl with a head on her shoulders, end of quote. All of which is mentioned now because, in just a moment, the head on Miss Barnes' shoulders will be put to a test. Hold on, my teeth are getting too wet. Circumstances will assault her sense of reality in a chain of nightmares, put her sanity on a block. Millicent Barnes, who in 1 minute will wonder if she's going mad.
You'll just need to start smoking. That'll help keep your teeth dry as you do it.
I just gotta. It's the whole secret to Serling is the dry teeth.
No, I've had a few people like try and figure it out in real time as well, like how to do your mouth and your teeth, because it is a bit of an odd thing, I guess. You know, I was always fascinated by the people who talk out of one side of their mouth. I think I'm one of those people who kind of sings out of one side of my mouth. So yeah.
Do you?
Kind of, sort of sometimes.
That's because of all those years of us like having to chase the mic that was falling down or off.
That might be why you're on stage. Well, you can see I'm still doing it with this mic, right? Like eating the microphone, and you know, playing gigs and stuff. Geez, How many germs were we sharing with every punk rocker in the city?
Oh, and don't forget being electrocuted through some of those
Oh
mics.
yeah, yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
did
no, there's
you
just
did more you did more vocals than I did, so but it was more
yeah,
surprising for me because I didn't go up that often, so it might be halfway through the set and I'm like, ah! Yeah, getting
I
shocked
think
through the
that's
lips. That always
yeah,
blows.
that's how you. That's surprising you didn't end up like Sterling.
Yeah. Um, so I've talked with some of these prologues. He's kind of like, this man is a bastard. He seems
Yeah,
pretty passive aggressive on this one.
yeah, you think so?
You think she's a smart girl, but she's kind of a ditzy idiot. That's kind of how I read it.
Kind of a blockhead.
Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of weird because yeah, this episode, okay, well let's put out why this is one of your picks, I guess.
Well, as a Twilight Zone episode, um, there's ones where people like meet their older self, and that's the twist. Oh, it was me. I was the old lady, or meet their younger self. It was like Nightmare as a Child. What was the one where the person was like basically being tormented by their like their childhood self or something
That
like that?
that might be it. Or hey, we did Walking Distance, which does it the other way around, where his older self is tormenting his younger
Tormented,
self.
yeah. But this is the only one, at least that I can remember, when someone encounters like their doppelganger, which is what happens in Mirror Image.
Right.
And this is a legit kind of phenomenon with the idea that everyone's got sort of a copy. But I also wanted it because it's really timely, because in popular culture, the idea of multiple universes or the multiverse is kind of something people are just now kind of picking up on because of Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Well, this episode was basically kind of half remade as which Peel movie is it?
Oh, Us.
Us. Okay, because I keep saying I finally got around to watching some of his Twilight Zone just to do some ahead
Yeah.
homework, but I still haven't gotten to the films. So
Yeah, that's a good point to make. Jordan Peele's Us, which is one of the best horror movies ever done, um, it was actually inspired by this very episode, Mirror Image, because in it you have a person who encounters a version of themselves that has escaped and is now driven by the idea that, like in Highlander, how many can there be?
smell my
Only
finger.
one. There could be only one. And so the idea is that the doppelganger has somehow gotten into this person's world, gotten out of the one that they're in, and is now like has it out for that one. They want to erase the person and become the person, like the
Well,
only version of that person.
well, yeah. If you had to hang out with yourself, that you'd probably get pissed off at yourself quite quickly.
Well, not only that, you're just like, who's this imposter? Obviously evil. Die.
Yeah.
So,
Multiplicity, right?
um,
Yeah. Except what is it?
no,
They
yeah,
don't they get dumber as they copy in Multiplicity or something?
they do. They get less and less sharp. By the time they get to, I think, the third or fourth one, he's putting pizza in his wallet and stick it in his pants.
It's been a while since I saw that one, so
I
yeah.
mean, that's a classic one to me. But yeah. So Mirror Image just is a great one for a lot of reasons. But one I think is because it's super low tech. Like there's literally nothing to really understand other than it's a frightening situation. It's one of those ones that just legit feels like a nightmare.
Yeah, I do think this is one of the best episodes, but this is one where I actually think the twist is pretty crap.
Yeah.
I because it's like they don't do anything with it. It's just there's a doppelganger. That's the
Oh, the
twist.
explanation.
I mean, just like it doesn't go anywhere. It's except that guy gets his luggage stolen, basically, and Millicent's sent to the nut house. Okay, I mean, there's consequences, but there's not development. Is what I'm saying.
Well, the gotcha moment is when you realize that the guy who's been, now he's now being pursued,
Right.
you
No,
know,
I
in a
right.
very straightforward way, and it's got that great process shot where he's chasing after himself. You got to remember, people around the time that this was out, you never seen anything like that.
True. Yeah,
There's a
and
lot
of
of
course
interesting
the
photography and effects.
the grin on his face is quite fantastic, of course. But
It is, isn't it? He's
we
like
want to,
almost a Mr. Sardonicus level of
yeah.
grin.
Again, I'm not. Maybe it is for the more modern audience. I think it's a great episode. This is one I've since I got the Blu-ray set. I think I've actually seen it like 5 times in the past couple months. So I
Yeah.
put it on for my wife because I was like, oh, show her Twilight Zone. Again, I do think it's one of the better ones. I watched it for fun again, then I watched it taking notes, and then I watched it last night, because we got delayed a little bit. So I watched it quite a bit. So it's not me saying that it's not a good episode. Just
No, but I
this is a
see what you're
little-
saying though. I hate the explanation for things is always my least favorite part of any sort of thing like this. Like I like Planet of the Apes is a great example. What more do you need? There's a Statue of Liberty. Holy crap.
You
The
need
guy's
Beneath
being
the
chased
Planet of
by
the
us.
Apes with those guys singing, those mutants singing hymns to the bomb. That's what you need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's my favorite like movie franchise, period, is the apes. I mean, I like them all. But here, um, I'm just not a fan of the explanation. The explanation is kind of like, okay, everything's over now. Once you've explained it, the exciting parts are finished, you know?
Mm. Yeah. So you have a good point. It's 25 minutes. So I'm just, I guess, for me, the seeing the doppelganger on the bus and her giving like the look of disdain is a little
Yeah.
harder hitting. Maybe that's why like that one is so hard hitting when it's like
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky doppelganger guy at the end. It's like, wow, we got so much menace from the Vera Miles shot that now it's just kind of seems silly.
No, to me, that is the end. And whenever I rewatch it, I forget that you've also got man chasing after himself. It's a kind of a hokey shot, like it doesn't look great. But the simple in-camera effects that they were doing with Vera Miles, those are all wonderful.
Oh
And
yeah,
that,
those are
like,
fantastic.
yeah, and just going up to the bus and seeing, like, she's probably on the bus, but seeing her and that face, yeah, you're right. That, I mean, it could have ended there.
So maybe that's it. That was the real twist climax shot, and then other one is just like, hey, dude stole his luggage from himself.
Yeah,
After
and
the
maybe they,
existential dread of the first reveal.
yeah, this is also the first season of Twilight Zone, and so a lot of times there's still a bit of hand holding that goes on. Not as bad as in the pilot, where Desi Arnaz has to come in and go, "Okay, you idiots, here's what you just saw." So you don't write to the station and go, "They left the ending off." People still needed at the time, I think, a little. Yeah, they needed to be held by hand a little bit. As Twilight Zone went on, I think the audience got more used to the way the logic plays out of these things and used to the Twilight Zone formula, and so they didn't need that. But during the first season, I think this is something that unfortunately, it may not have been Serling's top idea. He may have wanted it to end there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would
So
surprise me.
I guess yeah. So I that kind of works out. Have you seen your own doppelganger then?
No, God, that would be great.
Because of course, Serling's story for this was being at the airport and seeing a guy in the distance turned around who's like, that could be me. And of course, when he turned around, it wasn't. But that apparently was his inspiration for this one.
Excuse me, sir. Can I feel your teeth?
Too wet.
Too wet.
So I felt like I went hiking in New Mexico for like 2 weeks, and we were at the base camp. There was a guy eating a ham that looked like me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, same haircut. That's when we were playing in band, so that's when I had the floppy emo boy haircut, and then the guy also had the floppy emo boy haircut, and yeah,
Yeah.
It's like that guy looks like me. Yeah, Japan, I don't have this problem as much, but
Oh, and why is that?
I'm not sure. Although there are awful lot of kids. Definitely, there's like 5 types of kids, and that's it. Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm just gonna have to go by what you say.
Yeah,
But I would think if your doppelganger saw you, they probably would chase you down. Nobody here looks like me. Let's hang out. Let's start a band.
Yeah. See, ham guy was too busy eating a ham, so
Oh, sure. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you you can understand that.
I left out. I mean, there's only basically 4 actors in the whole thing, and the
Mm.
reason I left out the other 2, the guy who's he's perfectly fine. I expected to find any information on him, which I didn't. And then,
The ticket taker, there, the guy at the counter.
yeah. I couldn't really track down any info on him. The other lady working in the station was basically the television typecast of like Latina maid most of the time.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. I
which
That's the old days for you. That's my only thing. When I have my friends, I got a friend that's black that really likes the Twilight Zone, but we always end up on this discussion every year when we're watching the marathon. And they're like, you know, it's just such a wide, and that's why Jordan Peele getting a hold of the Twilight Zone is so great. And as you get more into it, or well, actually, you can tell from the first couple episodes, it's the best reason to revisit some material like that, because as much as the Twilight Zone, it's a good point to make, as much as I love it, it is a product of its time, and so you are going to get those roles. We've talked before about how few black stories there are. It's amazing that there were any.
yeah. And okay, it'll be a while. So the episode replay has a fantastic twist at the end that makes the episode.
Yeah.
Which just, if you haven't seen, I'll give the quick rundown. Is there's this like white sheriff trying to in every possible iteration of reality trying to take out this black kid going to university. Finally survives, and it's like, oh, it's 5 years later, and he just leaves, and you just hear police sirens. That's the twist. And it's like, okay, that was effective.
Yeah.
Because you always
Yeah.
hear about how like, especially African Americans, like when they go out, there's a certain sense of dread sometimes because this stuff happens. And I was like, okay, that episode really communicated that sense of dread with the twist.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know when you watch Get Out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm working through the show first, but now this one, I one of the reasons I was like, hey, why'd you choose it? Why'd you choose it? Is also like Serling is kind of in a weird place for burgeoning feminism. Like he's kind of half on board, but he's still coming from the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's worth noting that a lot of the shows are centered on a male character, and this being a story about a woman, the idea of women not being believed, that's still something that's being explored in film today, and by a lot of women directors too, because that's a very real thing. And in this episode, I mean, it's kind of a traumatizing, but it could definitely be viewed as metaphor for the fact that women, she's telling this man stuff, and he's like brushing her off.
Maybe that's one of the reasons the prologue for this one hit me. I was like, it's kind of passive aggressive. It's kind of like Serling wouldn't believe her either.
Yeah, I mean, like, I hate to keep going back to it, but for every sort of prescient thing he did, or some progressive thing that he did, there's also this underlying, well, there was a way people were just wired, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
its culture was wired.
So yeah, this is kind of a 2 steps forward and 2 steps back episode in that regard, in a way, which I thought was interesting because we, a few weeks ago we did the Hitchhiker, which seems to be a little more progressive in that regard.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
I mean,
she's,
it
I
is.
mean, she's being chased by death, but she has a little more agency. Like she's the one that decides to like start driving crazy and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is why people are still talking about this show decades and decades after the fact, because I don't think we're kind of reading into things. These things are kind of there, and it's incredible how um, they definitely were going on, regardless of who was pushing what. They're still, you can still enjoy them.
Yeah. But and this one is fascinating just because it's like, well, how much of this is intentional? How much of it is not
Yeah.
intentional? How much of it is like maybe a little wrong because of the context of the times, you know?
True. No, I mean, all through Twilight Zone, there's problematic things, you know, uh, but it's part of what makes it interesting, because you do have that juxtaposition.
I guess that's the genius of this one, with the central conceit being like no one believes her, So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorites for a lot of reasons, but I guess because it's so kind of minimalist that in that way it leaves itself open for so much. But there's a lot that's just definitely on the page. There's no bones about it. She's a woman in distress experiencing something that she can't explain, but when she does try to explain it, she's met with I mean, obviously they don't think too much of her, especially the old fart.
I'm trying to think of when I would have been stuck in a station like this for this long. And I guess the one I'm coming up with is when I went to Morocco and we took a train. And in Europe, if you take a train at night, it kind of stops somewhere and lets you off at like 7 or 8 in the morning.
Mhm.
Whereas this one just dropped us off in the middle of Fez, Morocco at like 4 in the morning. So it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
So they
So
did have
much
a
to do.
24-hour coffee shop. So I mean, that was one
Oh, great.
solution, but it was just like, okay, we've just been dropped off in a North African city, having never been to North Africa, and here we are. So that's a very different situation, but that just that came to mind, just the being stuck in the station for a while vibe of that this episode rolls with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think I've gotten. I ride trains an awful lot, and I don't think I've gotten like stuck in a station for any particular reason. More than an hour or two. Yeah.
I would really have to dig, but more of what comes to mind is just being caught in a like a elevator and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. I've never been airport delayed particularly, so that's nice. But
Oh, it is weird. And but yeah, the elevator makes me think of five characters in search of an exit. Have you gotten to that one?
that's not. I mean, I've seen it, but I haven't,
Yeah.
podcasted it. That's not
No,
season one,
no,
I think. Um,
no.
which of course we'll do more seasons, but we're on one now. Yeah. It's like the pre-taped call-in show, right? With David
Well, no,
Cross.
I mean, I guess I meant you've watched the whole series like all the way through.
Oh no, no, there's episodes I have forgotten, and probably a few I've never seen. So because I said on the show before, I have basically I spent years with a brick of about a third of the complete show on DVD.
You did tell me, yeah, you did explain that to me on one of the other episodes. Okay.
Yeah. So those are the ones I'd seen. So and then I'd probably seen a few on TV. But yeah, I'm actually, I mean, that's, I think if you're going to podcast a TV show and you've seen every episode of it, maybe that's like not a good one to do, because you're just stewing in your own juices at that point.
Yeah. Oh, there's no way to remember all of these. I mean, that's why I go back and watch them periodically, the whole thing.
Yeah. Uh, so let's do the questions. First one is, who in this episode went into the Twilight Zone, or who is of the Twilight Zone? I can also add.
Yeah. You know, I knew you were going to ask that, and I was thinking about it a week ago, and I had a good answer. But I think the obvious answer um, would be the original guy, like the man that's being chased at the end. He goes to the Twilight Zone. But I'm now more thinking that the station agent went to the Twilight Zone.
He's the one where it's kind of, yeah. I mean, he just got annoyed by the Twilight Zone, basically, though.
You don't think he went?
Oh,
It's
the
too much of
station
a
agent, the
yeah.
station guy. I mean, if he did go into the Twilight Zone, he was like, screw this.
True.
I don't have time for this.
He would refuse the Twilight Zone. Yeah. So I'll go with my original answer then.
Okay. So you're not putting Vera Miles in there?
I know, because I mean, one goes to the asylum and one just takes over her life, right?
Yeah.
And then the other in the other two, the man, you've got one that's clearly chasing him out of town. So I think he just kept on running, and he ended up in the Twilight Zone. I mean, because where else is he going to go? I mean, the other presumption is that he goes mad and gets thrown into Pokey, or he gets chased into oncoming traffic.
So how about the doppelgangers? What are they?
Well, the doppelgangers chill. They're in the, they won.
Well, they
both
won, but they both, like, one's like, they're so different than their clones, right?
True.
Like I
Hmm.
don't need again, it's not like I need to know like, oh, how did they step from their universe into ours or anything like that. But watching just the very last time I did start thinking, okay, mirrors with the Star Trek sort of the mirror universe because their doppelgangers suck.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering
Oh
if
God, I didn't even think about that.
yeah, because neither of I mean they might be a little nutty, but are this universe stars are perfectly pleasant, but the doppelgangers every time you see them there's a look of disgust or like perverse delight on their face. So it's kind of like the yeah, I feel they needed some goatees.
Yeah.
Vera Miles with a goatee, that would have been cool.
I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Did they deserve their trip into the Twilight Zone? So let's focus on the dude, Paul Grinstead,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because
Definitely Paul.
he deserves it because he didn't listen to Millicent.
Yeah. I mean that could have changed the whole everything,
Yeah.
you know?
Is it the duplicity because he was trying to be helpful, right? But then he did lead her kind of bait and switch. So
Uh
that might be
let's
his.
let's be real about why he was interested in her in the first place.
Okay, good point.
I mean, come on.
but maybe it's the bait and switch, which maybe makes him a little more deserving of having such an awful morning or whatever time of day this ended at.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I agree. I just think that I don't think his intentions ever were genuine. Even if you're just trying to be a nice guys, you know, crap. There's always some motive. And so yeah, no, he got what he deserved, man.
And the last one is where we put this episode on the tripometer. Zero's not trippy. Five is very trippy.
Yeah. Oh. I'm gonna have to just because of the fears actually being depicted, the whole you're not paranoid if they're actually after you kind of thing. Because of the amount of just flat out bizarre imagery, it doesn't go into like five, but I'd say a solid three-ish, you know?
I'm going to go all the way to four just because the
Yeah.
concepts are so weird. But I want to, of course, I want the four to be flipped around, mirror style. So it's a backwards four. I give this a backwards four.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Yeah, that's where it goes. No, I for me the atmosphere of this one is quite trippy, despite the visuals only giving you maybe three money shots. Is that what we get? We get the
Yeah.
bathroom reflection, we get the bus, and we get the whack shot at the end of the of the running. So
Yeah. In the bus almost doesn't count because you're talking about two things in frame with each other. And I feel like the bus shot is sort of like a pan, like there's a creative edit there somewhere.
yeah, it's not so much of an effect, I guess, but I'm just those are the three like I mean those would be the FX shots, quote because that's where there's at least supposed to be two of the same people in the shot, right?
Yeah, they the I believe the mirror shot is just a classic split screen. I've done one of those before, and I mean, you just can't beat it. It's very effective. It's
Yeah,
eerie.
not like James Cameron's Cheat.
No, no.
Get her twin, get the twin.
I mean, if it's nice if you can get it, it's
Yeah,
just not always
not
the
so
case.
common. Yeah.
No, no, no. I remember finding that out, going like, "Holy crap! What are the odds?" You know?
Well, worked out well for him then.
Oh yeah.
Um, wrapping up today. Yeah, like I told you, I'm making you think what a few months in the future. Do you know what's going on a few months in the future, or do you just want to give a general shout out to the
Yeah,
Gonzos?
a few months in the future, I guess I'm going to be at this thing called Fan Fest through the Oconee County Library. That's going to be playing about an hour of Gonzorific movies, and there's going to be some independent filmmaking panels. But it's more of like a just a convention of anything local, like sci-fi, horror makers, things like that. Anything that's sort of genre related. It's the first of its kind in Athens, and so that I believe is taking place November or sorry April. I believe that's April the what when is this airing? What is this coming up?
Let me look at my paper. Might be too late because I think it's the 25th. Yep,
Oh yeah,
it's
no, that's
yeah. So it
it's
just
happening
happened.
earlier in the month. So
It's
it
already happened.
happened, but if you're listening to this, that happened. But by then my movie Jugsaw will be out. You can find that on gonzorific.com.
As for this one, it's Time Enough Podcast, Time Enough Pod on Twitter. We're on Facebook as well. You can support it Patreon wise at Podcastio Podcastius, where we also talk about sci-fi films and Matt and Luke Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Weird caught educational films with oral hygiene. And there's podcasts about Pokemon, Monster Hunter, and I think the Monster Hunter one's going to start doing a double duty as a video game show sort of thing, quiz show. So apparently they running out of monsters, I guess. Okay, so watch your back. Make sure you don't have your doppelganger chasing you from behind.
That's right. Watch your back, but your best to watch your front.
Yeah, you don't want to get kicked in the nards by your doppelganger.
Because the dry teeth be pulling stunts.